What's up everybody, and welcome back to the MOC Spotlight, where we take apart what you build. For today's episode, we'll be taking a look at Boxor 2.0, created and posted to our message boards by Alex22. I wonder what happened to 21 and 20 and 19 and all those other Alexes. But before we get started, let me remind you of my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the MOC, the build of the MOC itself, and the concept and ideas behind the MOC's creation. Each quality will mount up to 5 points, leading up to a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. And please remember that this is all based on my opinion. So let's get this started. Oh, look at that. Isn't that adorable? It's just so small and beefy and adorable. Okay, but it is pretty neat looking. I like the whole futuristic robot aesthetic we got going on here, where a couple of details make it pretty evident that this is supposed to be some sort of robotic construction, such as the wiring, cables kind of traveling along, and then the little bits of greeble here and there, most of which is actually covered up by what looks to be this really nice and solid armored plating that is consistent throughout the body. And all in all, it reminds me of the suit that Colonel Sanders wears in Avatar: The Last Blue Person. You guys remember that? Some really good stuff. Well, if it were reduced to the size of a midget. However, I will say though, the arms I kind of have a problem with. Now, while I do like the short and stocky appearance we have here, I do feel that the proportions of the arms could have been handled a little bit better. Most notably the upper portions of the arms, which just look really off, and it just doesn't really look like there's too much support for these really huge forearms that the suit has. Like, I don't know, it just seems a bit too flimsy here, and it kind of bothers me that there are these gaps between the arms and the body, like there isn't really much holding these together. So it looks off in a practical sense, and it just doesn't look all too good to me in general. But aside from that, there's really not much else I can complain about. I mean, there is the all gray color scheme, and man, I hate all gray color schemes, generally speaking. But I guess I could make an exception here for 2 reasons. 1, the source material, and 2, it's supposed to be a robotic exosuit. And aside from maybe Pacific Rim, I haven't really seen too many exosuit designs that are necessarily pretty looking. So focusing more on the design of the actual exosuit itself, aside from the arms, it does overall look pretty dang solid. The pilot here looks to be seated comfortably. That is how you pronounce it, right? Or do you people say comfortably? It's a weird word, isn't it? Now I got you thinking about it. But anyway, back to the MOC. It's also got a very nice and unique silhouette, and you'll also find some neat detailing here and there, just kind of sprinkled around like a delicious donut with sprinkles. And the MOC also appears to have a very sturdy build. Like, everything just looks so well put together, and it's really impressive just to see how well this is done, considering that the MOC is essentially all system, if you don't count the pilot. But the pilot is actually an old Bionicle character named Nuparu, who's used here as an example for reasons we'll get to in just a moment. I'm sure my fellow Bionicle fans already know the dealio. I'm pretty sure everyone watching this is a Bionicle fan. That's how you guys found this channel, right? If not, post in the comments below. I'm honestly really curious. Any of you guys watching MOC Spotlight who is not a Bionicle fan. Anyway, back to the MOC. No more digressions. The exosuit is decently posable, retaining articulation in the arms, elbows, legs, and feet. Because, well, it doesn't have knees, so no knee articulation, but hey. And my most favorite part, or I guess I should say parts, are these articulated fingers, which have a surprisingly realistic range of posability. And I think it's worth noting that this is probably the only part of the MOC that's fragile at all, because everything else just looks, again, really well put together. Like, it really reminds me of the engineering that LEGO put into the Hulkbuster build we got last year, where it's definitely made out of system parts, but you still get the sturdiness and posability that comes available with typical construction figures. And I think that aspect of the MOC was pulled off really well. I will say though, it's a shame it doesn't have a function, because that would honestly be really fitting. Because for those who aren't in the know, because for some reason or another you're watching this video and you're not a Bionicle fan, pretty sure you are though, the MOC was intended to be an upgraded version of the old Boxor set that came out however many frickin' years ago, the frickin' dark ages of Bionicle, and the set was actually designed to act as an exosuit for the smaller Matoran characters that you used to get from McDonald's Happy Meals and stuff. The set even came with one of these little guys that you could actually never get from McDonald's. This is the one that managed to escape mass production from McDonald's, only to suffer the wrath of retail mass production and distribution and Yeah, anyway. So there we have it, Boxor. Now we have Boxor 2.0. See how I connected the dots here? It's pretty cool. In terms of being an upgraded version of the toy, it definitely has a little bit more to offer, but at the same time, it sacrifices an old play feature, which was the whole little function that you could do with the old Boxor, where he kind of does this little jig if you press down on him in a certain way. Does this new Boxor do that? No, but instead it does have articulation that the Boxor never did have before, so hey. But yeah, you see what I mean? I mean, it is cool that it's not just the same toy or anything. Like, it's a totally different design that follows the same concept. Just a basic exosuit built for Matoran. That's what these little guys are called if you're not a Bionicle fan. I swear, I am really curious. I really want to know who is watching this that is not a Bionicle fan. And there I go again, rambling. Anyway, it's supposed to be an exosuit for Matoran, and I would say that it succeeds in this regard. Heck, it even carries over the proportions of the Matoran with the stubby legs and the large arms. It almost looks like an upgrade for the Matoran rather than the old exosuit. So, I mean, hey, that's some cool stuff right there. Now, there is one more thing I gotta say about this, and it's that, well, while I like the way that this exosuit looks, I'm not seeing much of a Bionicle influence in here. It doesn't look like something that would appear in Bionicle. It looks like it could actually come out in something like Ninjago, where everything's system, and you know, I could just see like a minifigure piloting this thing more so than a Bionicle character, simply because it really doesn't have that aesthetical style of Bionicle. It kind of has its own style going for it. Really, the only Bionicle related thing that the exosuit has itself is this little play feature where you can store the little Krana masks in the exosuit in like a small cage or whatever the heck, which I gotta admit is pretty cool to have here, because where Bionicle looked incredibly complex with all the greeble and the pistons and random mechanical stuff going all over the place, here we got a really smooth looking robot, and it just looks way simpler in appearance than a Bionicle set would look. Even the old Boxor kind of followed the old Bionicle style. I mean, duh. It was an actual set. But yeah, that is basically all I gotta say on this. So let's move on to final scores so I can share my final thoughts and get this video wrapped up now, shall we? In terms of appearance, this MOC receives a 3.5 out of 5. It's a pretty neat looking little exosuit. It's got a simple but also quite effective design going for it. But the whole thing with the upper body and the arms and such really does bring it down a good bit for me. But in terms of the build, this MOC receives a 5 out of 5. We've got a really solid system build here, and I really cannot find too much to complain about, if anything at all. I do wish I had a function, but for what it is very well put together. And I find it really neat that you can still fit a Matoran in here quite perfectly. And in terms of the concept, this MOC receives a 4 out of 5. It does a pretty good job improving on some things from the original Boxor, but not enough for me to say that it's a totally successful upgrade. It's a fairly creative redesign of the Boxor that makes improvements in some areas, but seems to be fairly lacking in others. And all in all, its biggest detriment is just losing a good bit of that old Boxor charm. And with all that said, we are left with our final score, which adds up to a 12.5 out of 15. So you did a pretty sweet job, Alex22. Congrats for making it onto the MOC Spotlight, and I do hope to see more out of you and the 21 other versions of you. And of course, the many viewers tuning into the MOC Spotlight all the time, every day. Well, maybe not every day, every week. If you would like your own chance to shine on the MOC Spotlight sometime, please consider posting to our message boards at board.t2bchannel.com, where you are more than welcome to share your own MOCs to the LEGO Creations category we got there. So I hope to see you then, and if not, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.